In 1200 BCE, the Phoenicians arrived on the shores of North Africa. They built trade cities like Utica and Carthage, drawn by wealth and sea routes. The Berber tribes, scattered and autonomous, offered little resistance. Instead, they welcomed exchange, blending with the newcomers, planting the early seeds of what would become ancient Numidia. By the 9th century BCE, as the Phoenicians built Carthage into a powerful city, they exploited the Berber tribes of North Africa. Many were captured or coerced, forced into hard labor in stone quarries, harbor construction, and city walls. Whips cracked over their backs, chains bound their ankles, and their cries were buried beneath rising walls. Carthage became a jewel of the Mediterranean, but behind its glory lay the pain, sweat, and silence of the native Berber people. In the late 3rd century BCE, two Berber kings rose in conflict over Numidia's destiny: Gaia of the Massilia in the east and Syphax of the Massinissa in the west. As tensions deepened, Gaia proved the stronger strategist. While Syphax ruled vast western lands, Gaia moved swiftly, uniting many scattered Berber tribes under his banner. His dream was not just survival, but dominance over a unified Numidia. To secure power, Gaia forged an alliance with Hannibal and the mighty Carthaginian army. Together they aimed to crush Syphax's ambitions and tilt the balance of North Africa. What began as tribal rivalry became a fierce political struggle that would shape the fate of an entire region. Even after Gaia's rise, Syphax remained a fierce rival. He refused to surrender the dream of ruling Numidia. While Gaia allied with Carthage, Syphax expanded westward, claiming new lands and strengthening his army. The conflict between them never ceased. But as years passed and Gaia grew old, a new force began to rise: his son Massinissa. And when Gaia died, the torch of war and legacy passed to the next generation. Massinissa, son of Gaia, was raised to lead. From a young age, he was trained by his father in the arts of war, strategy, and leadership. He grew up amid tribal rivalries and political tension, and formed a close bond with Sophonisba, the noble Carthaginian. When Gaia died, Massinissa was ready. He took power with vision and strength, determined to fulfill his father's legacy and reshape the future of Numidia. At the height of the Second Punic War, Hannibal, Carthage's most powerful general, forged a crucial alliance with King Gaia of Numidia and his son, the young Massinissa. United by their ambition and a common enemy, they stood together against the rising power of Rome. In the great struggle for North Africa, two powerful leaders, Hannibal of Carthage and Syphax of western Numidia, stood united against a rising force: Massinissa. At the heart of this alliance was Hannibal, Carthage's most brilliant general. A master of war, he had crossed the Alps with elephants and defeated Rome in battle after battle. But now his fate was tied to Numidian soil, as old alliances were tested, and new powers rose to challenge Carthage's reign. After the death of Gaia, Numidia plunged into chaos. Massinissa, once an ally of Carthage, turned to Rome in search of support. In response, Carthage abandoned their former allies and turned to Syphax, king of the western tribes. To seal the new alliance, they offered him Sophonisba, once promised to Massinissa. With this marriage, Syphax gained royal prestige, Carthage regained a Numidian partner, and Massinissa faced a painful betrayal that would ignite a bitter war for power and honor. Scipio Africanus was one of Rome's greatest military commanders. Brilliant, bold, and destined for glory, he rose to fame during the Second Punic War. Known for defeating Hannibal and turning the tide of history. As Carthage grew weaker and alliances shifted, Scipio saw an opportunity in North Africa. He formed a powerful alliance with Massinissa, the young Numidian king who had once been aligned with Carthage, but now sought revenge against Syphax and to reclaim his rightful throne. Together, Scipio and Massinissa united Roman discipline with Numidian speed. The Battle of Zama had begun. On one side stood the disciplined Roman legions led by Scipio, joined by Massinissa and his swift Numidian cavalry. On the other side, the legendary Hannibal stood with Syphax, king of the western tribes, commanding what remained of Carthage's strength. The dry plains echoed with war drums, dust rising as two great powers prepared for a final clash. It was more than a battle. It was the fate of empires. Massinissa and Scipio launched a final siege on Carthage. From the land and the sea, their forces closed in with fire and fury. The city that once ruled the western Mediterranean was crushed. Walls collapsed, flames devoured temples, and the cries of the fallen echoed through the smoke. Carthage was erased, not just in defeat, but in memory. A civilization burned, and Rome rose from the ashes as the new master of the world. After defeating Hannibal and Syphax, Massinissa and Scipio captured the Numidian king. Syphax was taken to Rome in chains, leaving behind his wife Sophonisba forever. While Syphax was captured, Hannibal managed to escape. Refusing to surrender, he fled with his family and Carthaginian nobles by sea. As Roman and Numidian forces closed in, Hannibal sailed across the Mediterranean, seeking refuge in the east. He reached Asia Minor, modern-day Turkey, where he would live in exile, far from the land he once fought to protect. After the fall of Syphax, Sophonisba was reunited with her first love, Massinissa. Their bond, once broken by politics and war, was restored. In a quiet moment after the chaos, they were married, two souls joined again by fate and love. However, Scipio Africanus, the Roman general and Massinissa's ally, demanded that Sophonisba be surrendered to Rome. He saw her as a symbol of Carthaginian defiance, fit to be paraded in a Roman triumph. Massinissa now faced a painful crisis, torn between loyalty to Rome and love for his queen. Sophonisba was imprisoned in Rome, destined to be displayed as a trophy of war. But Massinissa could not bear the thought of his wife being paraded through Roman streets. In silent defiance, he sent an old servant with a bottle of poison. Sophonisba accepted her fate with dignity. She drank the poison and died in her cell, choosing death on her own terms rather than being shamed in the hands of Rome. After the war ended, Massinissa turned his focus to rebuilding and unifying Numidia. He worked tirelessly to bring together the eastern and western tribes, forging a single powerful kingdom. As king, he prioritized stability and prosperity. Under his rule, agriculture flourished. Wheat fields expanded, olive groves thrived, and rural life was strengthened. Massinissa transformed Numidia from a land divided by war into a kingdom rooted in growth, trade, and renewal. As ruler of a unified Numidia, Massinissa worked tirelessly to build a lasting kingdom. He developed villages into thriving towns and promoted stone architecture that reflected strength and stability. Roads, storage buildings, and temples were built across the land, laying the foundation for a new Numidian identity. As Massinissa grew older, he had 3 sons, Micipsa, Gulusa, and Mastanabal. Each was raised with royal duty. But it was Micipsa who would later inherit the throne and rule Numidia after his father's death, continuing the legacy of unity and strength.